This is wrestling's greatest moments.
Hey now, wrestling fans! It's time for another episode of Wrestling's Greatest Moments. The WWF Tag Team Demolition is often ranked as one of the promotion's greatest teams. But how much do you know about the team, as well as their sudden self-destruction? Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments looks at Demolition, the WWF's most destructive and dominant team. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Mention 1980s tag team wrestling in the WWF, and legendary duos like the Hart Foundation, the British Bulldogs, and Strikeforce come to mind. However, one team towered over them in sheer dominance: Demolition, the terrifying tandem of Axe and Smash, and later Crush. Demolition dominated the WWF's tag team division, winning the WWF Tag Team Championship 3 times, a rarity in that era, and setting a 478-day record as the longest reigning title holders, a record that would stand until the New Day broke it in 2016. Nonetheless, do Demolition's achievements stand the test of time, or has nostalgia influenced their legacy? Demolition 1.0. How did Demolition form? As we'll see, there are 2 very different versions of the story. The first is that veteran grapplers Randy Colley, whose career dates back to the early 70s, but who became best known for his run as Moondog Rex, and Bill Eadie, aka the Masked Superstar, developed the Demolition concept together while working in the WWF in the mid-80s. According to the book, The Six Pack, On the Open Road in Search of WrestleMania, Bill Eadie began brainstorming the Demolition character with fellow wrestler Randy Colley, who had previously performed as Moondog Rex. Their idea went through several iterations, including monkey and hockey masks, before settling on the black studded leather and face paint look that would soon become so iconic. However, Randy Colley tells a different story. According to the book The Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the tag teams, inspired by the black-hooded executioner figure portrayed in old movies, Randy Colley sat down one day in 1986 to come up with a similar look for a new tag team. He added studs to leather outfits, leaving the bottom open so he could show off his big legs. Colley recalls how he introduced the gimmick to Vince McMahon, arriving at the WWF's offices on a Saturday. "I got there early and told the girl who was the receptionist, 'I've got to put an outfit on, and I don't want you to be afraid. But when Vince comes in, he's got to see this.' I went up there on a Saturday and waited until he got there, sitting in full gear. He went into his office, and I went in right behind him. He just fell out of his chair. I love it. That was the birth of it." Colley states that Vince McMahon wanted a tag team based off Colley's character, and McMahon chose Bill Eadie, a successful veteran who had previously worked in the WWF as Bolo, a member of the tag team The Mongols, and later the Masked Superstar. The Masked Superstar became one of the Territory era's best villains as he incorporated technical wrestling with occasional underhanded tactics. While his exceptional promos projected the persona of an intellectual, there was no mistaking the carnage he created in the ring. Interestingly, Bill Eadie wasn't gung-ho about working in the WWF after Vince McMahon Jr. took over. According to Eadie, he had already clashed with Vinny, as wrestlers often referred to McMahon Jr. before he purchased the WWF, after the Junior McMahon told him he wanted him to work without a mask. However, Andre the Giant talked Eadie into working a program with him as part of the Machines. See our video, Those Magnificent Machines, for more details. Exit Demolition Smash. Demolition debuted on January 5, 1987, with manager Johnny V in their corner at a WWF TV taping. The team was due for a solid push and scored a decisive victory over jobbers Salvatore Palomo and Mario Mancini. Then, in one of wrestling's cruelest twists, Moondog chants could be heard during the TV tapings. Somehow, a group of fans had recognized Colley from his days as a Moondog. Eadie had no such problem, as he'd spent most of his career under a mask. The idea that fans would recognize Colley with a much different look has been scrutinized, and rightfully so. After all, Moondog Rex's bushy blonde hair and beard starkly contrasted the slick-back dark hair of Smash, not to mention the big man's face paint. However, Randy revealed in his RF video shoot video that the tapings were up in the Northeast, where a group of smart fans attended several of the shows because they were nearby. As a result, they recognized him from his WWF days and chanted Moondog so loudly that it could be heard on camera. According to Khali, the next set of tapings was outside the Northeast area, and he's confident the fans wouldn't have recognized him. While this is speculation, the end result is that Khali was out as Smash. During his shoot video with RF Video, Randy revealed he was very upset by the fans who called him out as a Moondog, as it cost him a lot of money. However, he ultimately forgave them, realizing they were just educated fans who recognized him from his previous work. Khali was repackaged with Jose Luis Rivera and the mass team The Shadows, cold comfort compared to the team of Demolition, as the Shadows won as many matches as Demolition lost. Demolition 2.0. The WWF brought in Barry Darsow to play Smash. Darsow began wrestling in 1983, enjoying success in Mid-South Wrestling as Crusher Darsow, who betrayed America to join Nikolai Volkov, one of the seemingly innumerable heel wrestlers who represented the Soviet Union. Darsow became Crusher Khrushchev, later jumping to Jim Crockett Promotions to team up with more Soviet menaces, Ivan and Nikita Koloff. However, a rumored payoff dispute led to Crusher bailing on Crockett. In 2011, Darsow recalled getting a phone call from Vince McMahon. "When I got that call to come up there, Vince called me and told me I have the chance to be partners with Bill Eadie. I just said yes right away. I just jumped at the chance." As we'll see, Khali's exit turned out to be a blessing in disguise for the WWF in its new version of Demolition. Why Demolition 2.0 worked. Although Eadie hadn't worked with Darsow before, the two underwent a baptism by fire, learning to function as a team as they began teaming as the new version of Demolition. The WWF conveniently ignored the previous Smash, going full speed ahead with their push. In hindsight, the retooled version of Demolition was the right call, at least according to Bill Eadie. "We had our own styles within the team. When I got tired as Axe, I could tag Smash here and Smash would go 3,000 miles a minute, and then he'd tag me." Darsow wasn't the only change to Demolition. Mr. Fuji was introduced as Demolition's new manager during the April 11, 1987 episode of WWF Superstars. In 2016, Bill Eadie discussed why Mr. Fuji was a better fit for Demolition than the comedy-based manager Johnny V. "When we looked around and saw someone as vicious as us, there was Mr. Fuji. Fuji was well known enough as a devious manager that the main thing with Fuji was that he wasn't concerned with getting himself over. He wanted to get the Demolition over, so consequently when he did something it looked more devious and people thought that he'd been planning that the whole time." Here comes the Axe and here comes the Smasher. WWF fans weren't certain what to make of Axe and Smash. The team's outrageous outfits were reminiscent of bondage gear, at least for those familiar with this fashion and lifestyle choice, but as Demolition would point out in interviews, they were inspired by the same fashions seen in the films Mad Max and The Road Warrior. The tag team Road Warriors adopted some of their look from the same films, although longtime fans may remember Hawk and Animal's early outfits featured them in biker outfits that some snarkers noticed resembled outfits worn by the Village People. Another wrestler based on the Road Warrior film was Lord Humongous. Demolition worked a methodical ring style that saw them take their time punishing opponents. Unlike the Road Warriors, Axe and Smash seemed to enjoy putting their opponents through the ringer until they polished them off with their finisher. Still, their use of traditional wrestling separates them from other brawlers such as the Road Warriors and the Powers of Pain. An electric entrance theme. Demolition's entrance music was an undeniable part of their success. While WWF composer Jim Johnston did not write the song, it was similar to the many signature songs composed by Johnston for WWF Superstars, and that fans knew from the first chord they were in for an action-packed match. And they knew who was coming out to the ring. Bill Eadie discussed the song's origins during an appearance on the Two-Man Power Trip of Wrestling podcast. "It's funny, we just did an autograph signing in Indiana, and Jimmy Hart was there, and we were reminiscing about the old days, and it was Jimmy who wrote that. Rick Derringer just sang it. Jimmy had given us a rough demo tape one night at Madison Square Garden, and we loved it from when we first heard it. I think it matched our character to a T." Demolition's theme remains one of WWF fans' favorite entrance songs. A trio of terrific title reigns. The WWF pushed Demolition hard, giving Axe and Smash wins over the promotion's many top tag teams. While dominant runs can help a wrestler or team get over, the ultimate decision makers are the fans, and Demolition's look, style, and tough guy persona won fans over. Demolition's success led to 3 WWF Tag Team Championship reigns, with the first lasting 478 days. Demolition defeated the popular team Strikeforce, Tito Santana and Rick Martel, at WrestleMania 4. The match was a nail-biter as Demolition initially pummeled Strikeforce, only for the champions to counter Demolition's power advantage with lightning-fast moves that knocked Axe and Smash off their feet. Rick Martel looked to have the match in the bag once he locked Smash in the Boston Crab. However, Axe grabbed Mr. Fuji's cane while Santana kept Demolition's manager from interfering. Axe clobbered Martel with a cane, and Smash covered Martel for the 1-2-3. Strikeforce chased Demolition for the titles, but circumstances outside the ring put Strikeforce's campaign on hold. In his memoir, Don't Call Me Chico, Tito Santana recalls, an illness in Rick's family was taking him away from wrestling for nearly a year. I tried to talk him into working some around it, but knew that family was family. He decided it was more important for him to stay at home and tend to the sensitive situation. Come July 1988, Rick was simply written off TV with an injury angle at the hands of Demolition after taking their filthy finisher on the floor. Demolition fought back challenger after challenger, including Strikeforce, the British Bulldogs, and the Hart Foundation, 3 teams that held the WWF Tag Team titles at different points. In the summer of 1988, the WWF introduced the Powers of Pain, the Barbarian and Warlord, who had just worked a feud with the Road Warriors in Jim Crockett Promotions. Although the Powers of Pain had worked as heels in JCP, they worked as babyfaces in the WWF, at least for a few months. As discussed in our video, Double Turns in Wrestling, WWF fans' reaction to the 2 teams led to an about face. In the article Seeing Double, the double turn of Demolition and the Powers of Pain, Brian Damage writes, "The Powers of Pain were seemingly over as babyfaces with the fans for a bit, but ultimately they were nowhere near what McMahon had envisioned for them. On the flip side, the heel team of Demolition were becoming extremely popular. Despite the team working as monster heels and being managed by the devious Mr. Fuji, WWF fans gravitated towards Axe and Smash. Consequently, both teams returned at 1988 Survivor Series, with Mr. Fuji betraying Demolition and taking on the Powers of Pain as his clients. The turn was clunky, but it did the trick." Later that night, Mr. Fuji told the fans he was tired of Axe and Smash not listening to him, hence his betrayal. Now babyfaces, Demolition continued their program with the Powers of Pain, with their feud culminating at a handicap match at WrestleMania 5, where the Demos defeated the Powers of Pain and manager Mr. Fuji, or as they called him, Fuge the Stooge. However, a new challenge was on the horizon. The Powers of Pain weren't the only JCP team to jump to the WWF. In 1989, the Brainbusters, aka Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, began competing under the guidance of Bobby the Brain Heenan. Although Axe and Smash were initially successful against the 2 former Four Horsemen members, they met their match during the July 29, 1989 episode of Saturday Night's Main Event, where the Brainbusters defeated Axe and Smash in a 2-out-of-3 falls match that saw the 3rd fall decided by Blanchard after Tully delivered a chair shot to Smash's head. Demolition was just getting started, and they continued dominating the tag team scene, chasing the Brainbusters while also scoring win after win against other opponents. Demolition finally regained the titles, defeating the Brainbusters on the November 4th, 1989 episode of WWF Superstars. Axe and Smash won the belts in controversial fashion, as Tully Blanchard was not the legal man when Axe pinned him. Nonetheless, the decision stood. Unlike their first reign, Demolition's second reign was much shorter. Axe and Smash fell to the Colossal Connection, Andre the Giant and Haku, on the December 30th, 1989 edition of WWF Superstars. Although Demolition had defeated larger opponents, the Twin Towers, the Big Boss Man, and Akeem, they were dispatched quickly in this match. Once again challengers, Demolition doubled down on their destruction, finally getting a rematch at WrestleMania 6 and defeating the Colossal Connection to become 3-time champions. Big things were ahead for Demolition, but the fickle finger of fate would bring everything crashing down, and within a year, the original Demolition would be no more. Demolition 3.0 and a dream match turned dud. Demolition was still strong in 1990 after defeating the Colossal Connection to regain the WWF Tag Team Championship. Big things were coming as the WWF was bringing in the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, and a Demolition vs. Road Warriors program seemed like a license to print money. However, the feud, if it can even be called that, never took off. As far as Bill Eadie is concerned, there has to be some kind of electricity between the teammates or the opponents. Everyone thought that Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair were going to set the world on fire, and Demolition vs. the Road Warriors was going to set the world on fire, and both series sucked. According to Bill, the Road Warriors agreed. We've talked with Road Warrior Animal, Joe Laurinaitis, a number of times, and the chemistry wasn't there. It wasn't that we disliked each other, or Hogan and Flair didn't like each other. It could have been postponed for a period of time, and the anticipation would have made it better. But sometimes you can't give the fans what they want. You have to lead them, not let them lead you. The feud also failed because WWF fans didn't get to see Axe and Smash vs. Hawk and Animal. Instead, the WWF introduced Demolition Crush, aka Bryan Adams, with fans occasionally seeing 6-man matches with Demolition vs. the Road Warriors and a third man, including a match where the Ultimate Warrior teamed with the Roadies. However, why did the WWF bring in a third man? The beginning of the end. Bill Eadie recalls suffering an allergic reaction that nearly killed him and began a chain of events that he never recovered from. Eadie told the Pitch's Justin Kendall in 2016, "I made 44 trips to Japan, anywhere from 2 weeks to 8 weeks. I consumed a lot of sushi or shellfish. Unbeknownst to me, I had developed a toxic buildup of iodine in my system, and I had a shrimp and lobster dinner and had an anaphylactic reaction to it and ended up in the hospital when my heart stopped. The doctor told me that it was from eating shrimp and shellfish over the years." Eadie contacted Vince McMahon while he was recovering in the hospital. As noted in the article, Acts of Demolition talks about his luscious hair at the Survivor Series. While he was in the hospital, Eadie spoke with Vince McMahon. Rather than give him and Darsow a few weeks off, McMahon decided to bring in a third member, Crush. The WWF had Demolition booked for 16 weeks of dates, and couldn't change things up. The promotion decided to take Bryan Adams and introduce him as Crush, a new Demolition member. Billed at 6'6" and over 315 pounds, Adams cut an impressive figure and had a few years of experience in Japan and the Pacific Northwest wrestling territory. On paper, Adams seemed like a good addition to the team. Eadie returned to action, only to encounter another roadblock. The ring doctors who performed routine checkups on the wrestlers prior to the matches began noticing an irregular heartbeat on Bill. He reported feeling fine, but the doctor said the irregularity was a cause for concern. Demolition began defending their WWF Tag Team Championship under the Freebird rule, where any two of the 3 wrestlers could defend the title. This also allowed Demolition to have an extra man at ringside, in addition to manager Mr. Fuji, and on occasion, have the man outside the ring switch places with one of the 2 Demolition members wrestling, with wrestling logic dictating that referees who miss various misdeeds by heels would easily be confused by 3 men in war paint. Meanwhile, Eadie was sent to a doctor who did consulting work for the WWF. Eadie underwent various tests. The doctor reportedly told Bill he could not interpret the test properly, recommending that Eadie see a heart specialist. Eadie believes the doctor advised Vince McMahon that he shouldn't wrestle, despite his alleged lack of expertise in the field. According to Bill, the heart specialist he did see determined that his allergic reaction had caused an irregular heartbeat. The doctor prescribed Eadie medication that corrected his irregular heartbeat. Bret the Hitman Hart recalls the events leading to Axe's last days in the WWF. On June 2nd, Bill Eadie, Axe of Demolition, was diagnosed with an erratic heartbeat. If he took his medication, he was at no risk at all, but his fate had already been decided. Vince didn't want the complications of Bill dying in the ring in front of the fans. Hart recalled McMahon bringing in Bryan Adams to play Crush, the third member of Demolition. Bill was led to believe that he'd be a three-man team from here on. Like Andre, Bill was being put out to pasture, but Vince didn't bother to tell him. During an interview for the Old Boys documentary, Axe and Smash discussed why Crush didn't work well as a third member of Demolition, largely because he wasn't as polished as they were, whether it was in the ring or on the microphone. The fans noticed the difference between the originals and the new lineup. In Darsal's view, Bryan was a really good guy, but Bryan and Smash, or Crush and Axe or whatever, it wasn't the same as Axe and Smash. Bill Eadie weighed in during the documentary, sharing that when fans talk about Demolition, they talk about Axe and Smash, as well as their manager Mr. Fuji, but not any incarnation with Crush. Consequently, the fans no longer bought Demolition as the same team that had dominated the WWF. As Darsal sees it, once the people don't believe it for a little bit, it goes from here, holding his hand up in the air, and if they don't believe it, it goes like this, dropping his hand fast, and it's hard to get them back again. Axe left the WWF, with Eadie claiming in the book, The Six Pack, that Vince McMahon offered him a job as a road agent, only to renege. Eadie left the WWF as Demolition's feud with the Road Warriors ended. Eadie later filed a lawsuit against the WWE, and according to the book The Six Pack, received a favorable settlement for unpaid fees for his stint as Axe, believed to be related to things such as merchandise. A non-disclosure agreement was signed, so Eadie can't discuss the suit. As for Smash, Barry Darsal continued working alongside Crush. Smash and Crush dropped the WWF Tag Team Championship to the Hart Foundation at 1990 SummerSlam in a 2-out-of-3 falls match. The team's feud with the Road Warriors flopped, and soon the WWF began jobbing Demolition out, eventually disbanding the team in 1991. Later that year, the WWF repackaged Darsal as Repo Man. Darsal's latest heel character enjoyed moderate success, but nothing like his time in Demolition, especially in terms of winning championships. Darsal later worked in WCW as the Blacktop Bully, and a second run there as golfer-turned-wrestler Mr. Hole-in-One. Crush turned babyface, playing off his Hawaiian heritage and becoming Kona Crush. Crush returned to playing heel, and like Darsal, played different characters in the WWF and WCW, including a run in the New World Order, A Cup of Coffee playing the Kiss Demon, a role later played by Dale Torborg, and his run in the Tag Team Chronic alongside Brian Clark. Sadly, Bryan Adams passed away in 2007 at age 43. And what of Randy Colley? Colley wrapped up his work as a Shadow, campaigning in Stampede Wrestling and Continental Championship Wrestling in the late 80s before heading to WCW and Smoky Mountain in the 90s, reforming the Moondogs in Smoky Mountain. While details are murky, Colley's interview with RF Video suggests there may have been a settlement between him and the WWF. Might it have been about the Demolition character he created? Based off Colley's answers in the shoot video, it appears he can't talk about whatever transpired, which means fans can only speculate. Randy Colley passed away in 2019 at age 69. Was Demolition a Road Warriors ripoff? And now for the question that has dogged Axe and Smash since their debut. Was Demolition a shameless carbon copy of the Road Warriors? The question continues to fuel debate amongst fans. WWF writer Bruce Pritchard doesn't understand the comparisons between Demolition and the Road Warriors. During an episode of his podcast, Something to Wrestle With, Bruce commented, "I never got the Demolition comparison. There were a lot of people who looked at the Road Warriors as a cheap imitation of Demolition. So there were fans who were only fans of Demolition. And when the Road Warriors came in, they saw them as imitations of Demolition. The people that were Road Warrior fans saw Demolition as cheap imitations of the Road Warriors. To me, they both wore face paint. But beyond that, they were two big body guys together. And all that, and they were different and unique in their own way." While Bruce Pritchard has earned a reputation among some fans as a WWF apologist, Barry Darsal, aka Demolition Smash, feels that Demolition and the Road Warriors work very different styles. When I first did it, I didn't think of the Road Warriors at all, because we worked and they didn't work. They just went out and beat people up. We actually had matches with smaller people, bigger people, medium people, everybody. So to me, it wasn't like we were the Road Warriors or anything. Not everyone agrees. In his sweeping history of the WWE, author Bill Handstock argues that Demolition was created as McMahon's own version of the Road Warriors, who he was unable to sign, but were the hottest tag team in the world at that time. Axe and Smash appear to have been concocted by a game of telephone played between someone who had seen the Road Warriors and someone who had seen the Road Warrior and then related to McMahon fourth hand. Like any entertainment medium, pro wrestling has never been afraid to try and piggyback off successful acts. As noted in the book Wrestling's Greatest Moments, wrestling has never been shy about ripping itself off. Anyone with doubts need look no further than the number of copycats that emulated the Rock and Roll Express in the 1980s, the Midnight Rockers, the Fantastics, and the Rock and Roll RPMs are just a few. Likewise, the incredible success of the Road Warriors led to a legion of wannabes, including Demolition and the Powers of Pain. It's often been said that if you're going to steal, steal from the best. Whether or not Demolition ripped off the Road Warriors act will forever be a hot topic for fans familiar with both teams. Regardless, Axe and Smash carved out their own identity, leaving behind their own legacy, and one that stands the test of time. The team's legacy is noted in the book Main Event, WWF in the Ragin' 80s. With their intimidating appearance, body-breaking double-team moves, cunning tag team tactics, and obsession with creating carnage, Demolition will go down in World Wrestling Federation history as one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Where do you rank Demolition's legacy as a WWF tag team and an overall tag team? Share your thoughts in the comment section, and let us know if there are any videos you'd like Wrestling's Greatest Moments to cover. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel, follow us on X and Instagram, and spread the good news about Wrestling's Greatest Moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.